Moving around today, you kind of saw, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw what the end of the market did. There was a lot of selling at the very end, but it wasn't before we reached new highs, so kind of some strange stuff is going on. We know about Tesla and Apple. They split, so they have their new numbers out. We'll talk about them as well. And then we've been seeing the VIX, UVXY, volatility basically start to increase, and then gold has been looking ripe again. So these are all the things that we're going to be diving in today. And so for now, we're going to get into how the S&P and the general markets are doing. Obviously, they're still very much up. Boy, it sure feels like they can't go much further without something else happening. Also, before we get into that, if anybody's wondering who I am and what I do and how to find more information about me, you can come over here to profitpilot.com. This is my channel for my website, and then you can get in here about the newsletters that I write. And then if you're interested in, once you see how I kind of work today and the indicators that I use, you go over to services. I do have a subscription service. If you guys like the way I trade, like the way that I explain the markets and stocks, you can come over here, check it out. And then if you like the way that I trade also, and like the Moxie indicator that I use and that I've created over the last few years, you can come over here and pick that up too. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew who I was and how to get more information about me. Alright, so now as we kind of go in here as far as the market goes, I mean, it's been stellar, right? We've been having some really good times recently. Ever since we were kind of moving around a little bit at all-time highs, the previous all-time highs with the S&P, and it was trying to take some time. Like, are we actually going to pop up through there? Is it going to be too much resistance and we're going to fall over? What's it going to do? And it took a combination of a couple things. One, and through here, if we look at the hourly chart, I like to use the hourly 50 as a reference point, and you can see that we had a really big gap in through there. And what it did is actually came back and filled it right there. And then it continued to fill it and fill it. And then we finally got a little bit of a drop. And that was going into a weekend. And I think it was like Friday right here. It did manage to recover. Price got back on top of the moving average. And then going into Monday, so the Monday of last week, they got better coronavirus news. Treatments and therapeutics and stuff like that. So that really kind of helped goose the market. And then to add on top of all that, we had Jerome Powell come out and said, hey, I'm going to have an announcement. Speaking at Jackson Hole, it's going to be some really big deal about the way we look at inflation. Now, I think most everybody kind of knew what to expect, that, okay, they're going to say, well, we kind of see inflation coming, and it's no big deal, and we're aware of it, and we're expecting it, and so when it does happen, we're prepared for it. So the market basically ran up into that announcement. There's a bit of a jostling shortly after, but then it recovered. And I'll show you here. I like to use the 15-minute time frame in this case because I just don't have enough guidance on the other time frames. Like on the daily chart, you can see we're off all of the moving averages, and we are up floating in air, and we're outside of the 30 ATRs, so I really don't have a feel for what's going on up there except that we're overbought. And then on the hourly chart, we're kind of up against the 30 ATRs as well, and okay, we're kind of running the 8 EMA, but I still don't have much clarity there. And so the 15-minute is where I get my clarity in times like this. And what you can see is we had Jerome Powell speak right there. Got a little bit of a move up, and it became overbought, and there just wasn't enough going on. We could actually see the internals weaken up at that moment, and so we got a big, we got a pullback right. Let me see if I can draw that better. We got a pullback right to the 15-minute 50, and it recovered. Then the next day, so Friday of last week, it continued to hold the 15-minute 50 and actually closed at new all-time highs. So things were looking pretty good. And then coming into today, we had Apple and Tesla split. Now, both of them are up. One of them kind of had a big move down. Like Apple had a bit of a move down at the end of the day. And you could see this is very, very interesting. If I zoom in on the S&P SPY, you can see that we were running right up at the end of the day, right there into the end of the day. And it looked like, okay, maybe we're going to kind of claw our way up to new highs yet again. It made new highs, and then at the very last minute just imploded, just a big hit. So this is very strange, and I'm not sure what to make of it yet, except that I am aware that the entire market is really, really high, and it doesn't tend to last this long or last up here. Price does not tend to like to be off the daily 8, nor does it like to be outside of the 30 ATR, both of which it is doing right now. And then you can see that price has been just crawling up against along the 15-minute 50, and the Moxie indicator just keeps trending down. So, having a hard time there. Hey Evan, how's it going? Yeah, I am still up in the Pacific Northwest. So you guys can see I'm up at my family's house. I'm in the office. I'm actually, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be heading out to Grapeview. The sun is peeking out a little bit. We're going to go get on a boat and just have some time, maybe go skiing a little bit too. So we're trying to take advantage of the good summer weather while we still have it up here. Then we get over, well, let me just say also, price on the hourly chart tends to not like to be too far away from the hourly 50 either. Case in point right there. I don't know what's going to happen next. Is this going to be a really big drop and are we going to really start a new downtrend and start a pullback? Or is this just going to be a quick dip, hit those moving averages and come back up? It's really hard to say because I'm seeing such a mixed bag out there. And I think we're also very much aware of the lack of participation. That is basically 5 of the big tech stocks which are just keeping this market up. The other thing we can see, so Qs are kind of the same thing. We've got price outside of the 30 ATR. We've got price off the 8. And other than this little blip right there, we have not touched the hourly 50 in several days. And that's a concern. It doesn't usually like to go too long without being touching that support. So everything in my spidey senses are kind of tingling, and I'm very hesitant about this market. Keep in mind, we are also going into a 3-day weekend. It's just kind of whatever we want to do about that. Yeah, thanks, Evan. And let's see. So on here, you can see also we've been bouncing off of the 15-minute 50. Now, once again, I'm starting to see some divergences. We have price up, and the Moxie indicator is down. So I'm seeing that they haven't triggered yet because price is still over the 15-minute 50 and we're still in an uptrend. We're still over these moving averages. But boy, it's making me real nervous. And then if we look at the Dow Jones, since this is state of the market, we'll hit all of them. The Dow Jones was getting some love for a little bit, but once again, every time they kind of hit those 30 ATRs, they like to pull back a little bit, especially on the daily chart, and we got a little pullback. And you could see that in the last week, we got underneath the 15-minute 50. That's different than being over the 15-minute 50, which it did last week, and that's how it made a good move. My concern is that this might actually start getting rejected by the 15-minute 50. So keep an eye on that. And we also, on the hourly chart, price up, indicator down. So I'm starting to see some divergences, lack of support. Then let's go and meander on over to the IWM. And if you see here, it had a hard time going into this close. I'm looking at this. I was trying to think if this was constructive on the daily chart. It's basically neutral. I'm not getting a good feel for it. Price is still over the daily 21. Okay, we got that. But then here's the issue on the hourly chart. I did find that there was a place to bounce, and since then we had a little bit of moving up. Here's the issue. In my world, in how I trade, I have what's called a trampoline move and an inverse trampoline move. So anybody who's familiar with me, I'm sure you've heard me say this, these are my #1 trades. But right now, we are forming an inverse trampoline move on the hourly chart. Price should not be over the 50 if the indicator is below 0. It's just a condition that shouldn't exist because when the Moxie indicator is below 0, we should be going down. We have negative energy. And if we have negative energy, price should not be going up along a moving average. That moving average basically won't be able to hold price, won't be able to support it if energy keeps getting negative, which the Moxie indicator is implying. And so today you can see that price did not hold, could not get over the 15-minute 50. It's not holding the 15-minute 200, and it even closed below the hourly 50. So I'm seeing a lot of warning signs over here too, but we always know that the IWM is, kind of a laggard. But maybe, if I think I saw a stat, Apple is basically, its market cap for Apple is as large as the IWM. So if that kind of tells you something, there are only a handful of stocks leading the way. Now here is where we get something very interesting when we come over to the VIX and the UVXY. Now the UVXY is the triple leverage of the VIX, of the volatility. I like to look at it because I've kind of learned how to read it a little bit better, but I like to use both in case they're telling me something. Now, we are in a squeeze on the daily chart. Moxie's not quite loading up on here. It doesn't matter. It's mostly concerned about the hourly chart and below. So what I've been seeing here, notice that there's a level. Moxie indicator keeps going up. And then here's that trampoline move I talked about. So the previous one was an inverse trampoline move. This one is a regular trampoline move. And I tell you, this is like one of my #1 trades because of the force that is behind it. And it does. This is VIX. This is volatility. Look what happened. Price went below the 50. The Moxie indicator is above 0. That's a high buoyancy situation. You can see it shot price right back up out of there. And that's making me worried. I'm very concerned about this because I don't understand which volatility should not be going up when the market's going up, except if volatility and people are starting to hedge, and if it's calling the bluff of the market. If the rest of the market is saying, yeah, we see that the SPY and the Qs are keep going up and up and up and up, but the breadth is bad, or the support or the participation is poor, and this shouldn't happen. Like, this is getting to crazy, crazy levels. And so people are saying, well, sure, I will keep buying the market, but I'm going to hedge myself with some volatility for the inevitability, basically. So I think that's what's happening. I think this is why we're seeing this start to move up as a hedge, because this should not be going up when the market's going up. And then most recently, as of today, basically, I did note that the VIX did find some support at the 15-minute 50, and the Moxie indicator's up above 0. So there's some interesting things here. And if we use the UVXY as kind of an actual ticker that we can trade, and I've been looking at this, note and I show a lot of people this in my Moxie subscriber channel. They've been very well versed and updated on what's going on here. 78 million shares were traded on Thursday. The last time we saw 78 million shares traded was back here, right here, February 27th, which was just going into the beginning of the whole coronavirus pandemic, okay? Now, I heard that there's some rebalancing, okay? There might be some other details, but I want you to know that there was some big volume coming into the UVXY, and that might mean something, okay? Now, typically what I see is price, crossing the 50, gets rejected by the 200 and comes back down, test the 50. I'm still kind of looking for that. I don't know if we're going to get it. Something might happen to where maybe this thing just keeps kind of going up and up and up and up at this point. And the most of the pullback that we were going to get might have been that. It's a possibility. There's still a lot of volume coming into this. Look at this. You've had 1, 2, 3 very large days of people buying volatility, buying the UVXY, and the UVXY keeps going up despite the market going up also. I just can't stress that enough because I think this is going to be meaning something. The other thing, notice price down, Moxie indicator up, price level, well, if I could draw that better, price level, Moxie indicator kept going up, and then all through all this movement, the Moxie indicator keeps just chugging up and up and up and up. And again, we ended with the with price moving up on the UVXY. Concerning, okay? So I think I've hammered that enough. We'll just kind of move on from there. The other thing, if we look over at gold, we've seen that gold has been in a pretty big pullback, consolidation period. I think a few sessions ago when I had the Facebook and YouTube live for my own channel and all this, people were asking me, is this the time to go long in gold? And I said, no, this is not, because a couple things. One, you do not want to be going up against a downtrending moving average. You don't want to trade the X. The other thing is, the Moxie indicator was still below 0, and we hadn't seen any divergence. Now that we've had some more time, and now that we've seen a little bit more of what's going on, we can see that price is closer to the daily 50, so that's good. It's usually looking for that kind of support. And then you can see here's your double bottom, and not necessarily divergence, but the fact that the indicator stopped this and then is now starting to turn up. This is now the second time, and you can see that price is actually starting to spend more time above the hourly 50, and look at the hourly 50, it's starting to turn up. Notice how before the hourly 50 was still turning down. So it's different. Something's coming. Something is starting to build. I tend to like to look when price actually finds support at the hourly 50, meaning it'll bounce off the hourly 50. So we'll see if we can get something like that. GDX is the gold miners. You know, kind of looking around at this, trying to play this. This one did a much better example of what I want to show as far as divergences. Notice, see here, hey, you have there's your double bottom, and then now you have your divergence. That's the kind of stuff that I like to see, especially on the hourly chart. So I think something is coming in here, and as before, remember, you don't want to be trading up against a downtrending moving average. And here's that inverse trampoline move I was talking about. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. But now that we have this, you notice that the 50 is starting to turn up and price is starting to spend more time there. So if we get price to actually kind of come down or at least operate in this area, the Moxie indicator is just about to cross positive, and then it can engage with the hourly 50 and start to move. So I'm looking at gold miners, precious metals in general. You can see here we actually did have a bounce off of the daily 50. I think something's going to be looking here. So go look around at your gold watch list. Go find something you like. One of the names in particular, NG, had a nice move today. And speaking of trampoline moves, here is the hourly trampoline move. Price below the 50, Moxie indicator above 0. So for anybody who's wondering about the Moxie indicator and the way I trade, remember you guys can go over here to ProfitPilot.com and you can go check this out. Go over to services, and that's where you can get either the Moxie Mastery for my subscription service, my alert service, or you can go over to the Moxie Stock Method. You get the class, you get the indicator, scanners, all that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure everybody knows who I am and where to get more information. And then silver, SLV. It's going to be basically the same as gold. Now they're going to be generally moving together, and not so much divergence on the hourly chart here, but you can see that there's that double bottom, and we do have price now staying and spending some time over the hourly 50. I'm looking forward to engage with the hourly 50. I do like that the hourly 50 is now starting to turn up as opposed to before where it was down. So there's some differences that are coming in here, all right? Some changes. So start looking out for that kind of stuff. TLT, bonds, bonds are going to be going down because inflation and interest rates are all moving around. So I just don't really see much of a play. I had somebody in my channel today kind of talk about this, price down, indicator up. Okay, there might be a bounce, there might be a short-term move up, but, as far as this goes, it's underneath the daily 50. The 8 is below the 21. I mean, everything is kind of in a downtrend, so if you want to be shorting the bonds, do it on a bounce, just like if you were going to go long something, you do it on a dip. But I don't really see much opportunity as far as TLT and the bonds, so kind of move on from there. And then UUP, kind of see if there's anything with the dollar. And the dollar basically has been in a downtrend for quite some time, which has helped stocks, because a cheaper dollar means stocks go up, and also means the same thing for commodities. Gold means that a declining dollar is good for all of these commodities in gold, that they will be going up. And you can see it just keeps kind of down, 8 below the 21. Daily moving average is in a downtrend, and this last little bounce ran right into a downtrending hourly 200, broke the hourly 50. Yet again, it's making new lows. So for now, dollar seems to be going down and seems to be doing it in a fairly decent way. So beyond that, I think we'll kind of circle around and we'll talk about some interesting stocks that are out there. Let's take a look at Tesla. What a beast, right? So I've had a lot of conversations with other traders about something like this, and we're all kind of scratching our heads thinking, I wonder when maybe Amazon or Google, and I don't think Netflix, but maybe like what if Adobe or some of these other really expensive stocks also said that they were going to have a stock split in this kind of environment. We have now seen what Apple has done, and we've seen what Tesla has done. And if one of these other big stocks says that they're going to announce a multiple stock split, whew, maybe we just throw everything at it, because man, there are some good things here that we're looking at. I was just noticing that since kind of the news, we just kind of take it from here to here, Tesla has gone roughly 70% in 19 or 20 days since that stock split news. Unbelievable. Wow. As far as the way I look at things and the indicator, well, so far price has been holding the hourly 50. It had one little time here where it got close. It essentially bounced off of it. Now this thing is to the moon. Again, kind of like the market. I don't really have any good metrics of what to say about something like this because, well, it keeps kind of going up. It's been following the moving averages. It doesn't care about the ATRs. It doesn't care about being overbought. People are just looking at this and just saying buy, buy, buy. Now that won't last forever, but for now it keeps going up. For when it does run out, look for price to actually get stuck, to get trapped, to get rejected by something like the 15-minute 50. So far it's only taken dips below it, gotten right back on top. The only time it once got rejected was right there. It did pull down a little bit and then got right back on top. So just keep watching that and see when this thing is or if it's going to ever do that. And then for more oomph to the downside, see if when price can actually either break through to the downside of the hourly 50 or actually gets trapped by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, something like that. But for now, stay out of its way. How about Apple? Same kind of deal. Like, what has Apple done? I forget when they announced their stocks, so let's just talk about it from earnings, so to speak. 34% in 32 days, pretty darn good, especially since it has more than doubled since the coronavirus lows. Pretty impressive here as well. Now, same thing. Anytime they kind of get a little bit too extended, they like to pull back a bit, and that's where I've been seeing the third ATR, you know, kind of push the third ATR and third ATR again. Hourly, daily chart, it's just up there. Now, you know, there was a bit of a pullback here, and as I said, Apple is a massive, massive market cap. So when Apple moves, the market moves, which maybe that's why the SPY, and maybe that's why the Q, maybe that's why they moved at the end of the day as far as a pullback, because Apple did a little bit of a pullback at the end of the day. So it's not really the S&P 500, it's more like the S&P 5. So just be aware of that. Let's keep seeing if price can hold this moving average, whatever, something like that. And then we go over to, say, Amazon, kind of looking at something here. Same thing, it's getting a little bit stretched, it's getting up there. So far, it's a little bit messy on the 15. You know, it's a little bit messy from the 15-minute 50, a little bit messy, but it has been staying above the hourly 50, and so far it's been staying above the daily 8 EMA. So we're seeing a lot of weird things out there kind of happening. Microsoft, I think Microsoft is moving around because of the TikTok ownership buyer news, like who's going to be the new owner of TikTok. So that's an interesting something. It seems as though everybody who is putting their hat in the, or putting their name in the hat, they get boosted because I think it looks like it's a good thing to own TikTok because of the user base and all that. So be it. And if you look at something like this, it had a big shot up right here. And you can see this is why I kind of talk about and reference the 15-minute 50 right there. Price broke the 15-minute 50, but that's because price was so far away from any other support and third ATR and third ATR. Now, this may not necessarily be the end of the move. We aren't sure yet. Just look for other moving averages for potential support. Otherwise, if price can't in the near future get back on top of the 15-minute 50, then we might be starting to look at some downside for something like this. But it could just be taking a little bit of a break and a breather. Beyond that, Microsoft handled Netflix. You know, let's see. Not too much to say about this. It had a big pop. That's when CRM, Salesforce, had their earnings report, and they got added to the Dow Jones. And you can see here it is back on top of the 15-minute 50. Maybe it's going to run into the hourly 50 for support. Not quite sure yet. This is a very strange market to be in right now, and so, you know, I'm looking at a lot of things. A lot of things do look like they are still good and healthy, but if the market rolls over, it doesn't matter what something looks like, it will get eaten alive as well. And then, let's see, Nvidia, you know, same thing, broken record here. It's been doing well. These things are at frothy levels. They are at absurd levels. Every time they do get to the third ATR, they tend to pull back, but it has been riding the third ATR on the daily chart for some time. These things are getting insane. So don't step in front of these trying to short these yet. As I said, I've been looking at the UVXY and the VIX. It's kind of weird out there. But as long as these things are doing this, you don't want to be in the way yet. And until we start seeing these things really break over, break down, start to get underneath these moving averages and start using these moving averages to the downside, you don't want to be in the way. So I think that pretty much brings it to my, well, let me go one more thing. Let's do XLF to look at the financials, because they haven't really been doing much. You know, they're going to be part of the IWM, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. When you see something break, here's where price gets underneath the 15-minute 50, and then from there you can see that it just gets guided down by the 15-minute 50, right? And so this is what I'm talking about when we look at those big FANG stocks, or we're looking at the market, or we're looking at the Qs, or anything else like that. It is driving me crazy to see the VIX and the UVXY keep moving up with the market moving up, but I feel like I can't quite tackle those yet because nothing's in a downtrend yet. You know, none of these big names are in a downtrend, but when they do start to break down, this is about the best I can tell you is just watch and see if it gets underneath that moving average. And, you know, who knows? Are we at the start of this, or is it actually coming into support of something like this? That is the tough part. You know, is it going to fail support, or is it going to hold support? And this is where we have to kind of get through here and figure out these things and say, well, what are my near-term guidelines and metrics? And sometimes you get chopped up a little bit. This is not an easy market right now unless you're only playing Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, and a handful of names. The breadth is not very good. In fact, let me see if I can pull up. Now let's see. There we go. This is the market breadth for the SPY. Notice that right about this is the 11th. This is when I first took a short, and ever since then, as price was trying to go, you know, come into the hourly 50, breadth has just been negative, 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 and then we get a couple days that rip up, and then look at today. Today was not a good day. This is not good. Why is the market still moving up when the internals are negative like this, and the rest of the market is not moving up? We've only had a handful of days that then get sold into, handful of days that get sold into. The internals of this are not looking good, not feeling good. And not that this is going to be the end of our bull run, but something needs to happen as far as a pullback or a refresh or a touchback of some support. That's all I'm trying to say. Is be careful out there. We are running ragged, it feels like. I don't know when this is going to happen, but it feels like something needs to happen. It could happen in a big way, and we're just not sure how long it's going to last. But we're seeing a lot of cracks out there, and only a handful of stocks are really holding the market up. So with that doom and gloom, I'll leave you all to be, and let's see how long we can keep this thing running before the wheels fall off. And until then, that's going to be my commentary for today, State of the Market with Simpler Trading. And remember, if you want to find out more about me, how I trade, the Moxie indicator that I've developed and that I use, just come over here to profitpilot.com, visit simplertrading.com. You can find out more about me and us. And thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you next week for